Element project here, where it's not how much you make, it's how much you keep that counts. We already got some oops going on. Let's see if I got this thing right. Paste it. Yeah, let's paste it up. Paste it. Yeah, I missed the professor because I did a live early, and it might have been too early for where she's at. Hey, Nikki, please tune in. Yeah, it looks like the thing right here is a little better. I'm talking about my the heck is this? This is looking crazy right here. I didn't want that. Okay, this is what I was looking for. Yeah, I have more. I have more. Oh, you were listening? Oh, I didn't know you was there, girl. Should have said something so I can get excited. You know, I get excited when you come on the show. Shoo, shoo. Yeah, I was thinking about all the things that I was saying earlier. It's kind of grim, but I don't know if it's useful to put out all that grim perspective or potential potential change. I was, yeah, I was. It was about what to expect. And I'm gonna tell you right now, people are already acting up. People are already acting up. And right now, I'm looking through the news. I didn't search it yet. I don't typically get my information from all this stuff here, but hopefully I can bump into something. This is only the beginning, y'all. This is only the beginning. Oh, yeah, I'm sure you've seen upset people, but there's some things that are being said. There's some things that are being said. Oh yeah. From the new administration, there are things that are being said. Now that they won, there's no there's no holding back. There's no holding back. Yeah, I'm gonna give you some tea right now. Give you some tea. Okay, look. Okay, this right here. This is only the beginning. Okay, this is they're hey 50-year-old bug. I'm glad you made it. Yeah. Uh, this headline right here. This is only the beginning. So RFK Jr. is expected to join Trump's government after warning the FDA's, and this is a quote, the FDA's war on public health is about to end. Telling all employees to pack your bags. This is only the beginning. Listen, there are going to be a lot of agencies, A lot of agencies. Hey, Walk Talk Games, my brother. Look at all these beautiful people coming in. Okay? Smart people. There you go, John. Thank you for that. Now I know your name. Thank you, John. I had someone told me that now my people need to go back to already that yeah. Well, if you didn't hear my live earlier, I'm at a truck stop right now. Been here since yesterday, waiting on the load. Today, I see this gentleman. Oh, thank you for that. Thank you for that, John. So the man was full MAGA with the hat and the shirt. What drew my attention was the shirt. Okay, is it even working? Because man, listen, I got some fixing to do. So yeah, so this gentleman was MAGA down. But the thing that caught my attention the most was his T-shirt, because his T-shirt had a list of qualifiers. Thank you for that, Nikki. A list of qualifiers. Check this out. That made him the right type of person for this country. The right type of person. If you ain't got these qualities, you're going to run into some problems. Top of the list, Christian. Second on the list, white. Yup. Third on the list, I think it was unvaxxed. I might be skipping one, but meat eater and gun owner. And I might be, straight. Yeah, that's what the T-shirt said. So the T-shirt said, what was the first one I said? Christian, white, straight, gun owner, meat eater. I might be missing one again. Yes, Nunu, I'm sorry. My apologies. I knew that, and listen. Well, you gotta check with people sometimes. Some people don't want their name being put out there. So I got you, John and Nunu. So y'all's better get ready. Don't forget, I've had brushes with law enforcement a few times. And some law enforcers, they can get carried away. You could be driving with your family, and they'll embarrass you, they'll insult you. And if they go beyond that and do something, you can always file a complaint. You can always file a lawsuit. The way it's set up right now is very difficult because they got qualified immunity, it'll be very difficult for you to win a lawsuit and impact that officer. You're not going to impact that officer. What's going to happen is that the town that they work for, the city that they work for, with the taxpayer money, they pay you. However, that's crazy. That's crazy, Nunu. That's absolutely crazy. But I'm not surprised. Especially where you live, I'm not surprised. Not surprised at all. Oh. You managed to get him fired? Wow, that's a big deal. Because a lot of times the local government, they don't fire him. A lot of times. But y'all need to brace yourself, because they're going from qualified immunity to full immunity. And those body cams, they're probably not even going to be working. They may not even have to wear body cams anymore. So when you encounter one, so how long did it say it would take to get in place? They didn't give a time, but it can happen immediately. January 20th, January 21st, it's all said and done. It can happen that fast. Look at that. So they didn't even get the video from their body cam. They got it from your neighbor. Wow. Unbelievable. And they got some callous people working in law enforcement. They don't care. Look at what happened to that lady in Illinois when the sheriff showed up. What did she say? I rebuke you in the name of Jesus? Oh, yeah, that sounded real threatening right there. It sounded real scary out there. I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. Well, guess what? Guess what, Miss Queen? After January 20th, when things like that happen, cops ain't going to jail no more. They're getting absolute immunity. Absolute immunity. I've listened to some content creators from our community talking real tough. Well, they ain't gonna touch me. Yeah. Right. Oh, Queen, it's qualified immunity now, but it's going to be total immunity after Jan 6. See, with qualified immunity, at least you get a chance to have a lawyer try to dig out whether or not, yeah, it's qualified now, but after January 20th, it's total. So there ain't going to be no need to have to prove that this cop did this unnecessarily. They ain't going to need to do that. Tell you how it's going to go down. Back home, during this man's residency, see if I show you his face. Let me see if I show you his face. This dude right here. Let me put him up. Let me put this guy up so you can see him. This guy right here, can you see him? Joaquin Antonio Balaguer Ricardo. All right? He was the president of the Dominican Republic. Let me explain something to you. Little history lesson. Okay? Little history lesson. This man right here, Joaquin Balaguer, was put in power after another president who was fairly and duly elected by the population, by the people. He got taken out. Maybe I'll show you his mug too, just in case. I'll show you his. This is typical. This is typical. There he is. Here he is. All right. Okay. We're talking about the Caribbean now. Latin America. This is typical. This dude was elected. Juan Bosch was elected by the people, for the people. This election took place after our dictator was assassinated. His son took over, but then he had to leave. He had to beat it. So this man became president. Okay? Too bad the professor ain't here. Professor, her thing is history. Welcome back, Daniel. Welcome back. So Juan Bosch was elected fairly, but he had socialist ideas. That's a bad word. Socialist ideas is a bad word in this hemisphere, no matter where it is. So what happened? The business community reached out to who? The U.S. government. Said, listen, this guy right here, you already saw what happened in Cuba, right? And then Fidel got hooked up with the Soviets. You don't want that? You don't want any more of that out here. Hey, DeAndre, the link is right up top. Anybody can come in, by the way. Anybody can come in. Thank you, D. So, as usual, somebody says socialism, communism, what? Where? Oh, hell no. We already got a problem with Cuba being affiliated with the communists now. Oh, we can't have that. We can't have that. Well, there was some pressure, and he had to go. Can't have that. All right, cool. So then we have new elections. I think Juan Bosch was there for like 6 months. That's about it. Before they kicked his butt out. So then Mr. Balaguer participates in an election. Guess who backs him up to become president? Guess who helps him become president? His homeboy. Somebody who worked with him throughout the previous regime, throughout the dictatorship that was Trujillo. His solid homeboy. Somebody who worked directly underneath him in the Department of Education. I can't produce a picture of that man, but I know that man very well because that's my father. My father helped this man with his campaign. My father worked directly underneath this man in the Department of Education. My father worked for one of Trujillo's brothers. My father was a college professor. He taught chemistry and math. He was also in charge of one of the areas where the sugar industry produced sugar for the world. My mom, part-time, when she had time, was a school teacher. Remember, my mom gave birth to 14 kids. I'm number 14. Me and number 13 have a 10-year gap, so I wasn't expected to come around. So my father helped this man. He became president. Because he was my father's homeboy, my father was expecting to have a position in government, a very good position in government. My father was expecting to be the director or the administrator for the Department of Energy. He didn't do it. Balaguer didn't do it. Why not? Balaguer was afraid of the military. With good reason, too. So he assigned some knucklehead from the military to assume that position, and the dude was clueless. However, he did know of the relationship that he had with my father, and my father was more than qualified because he was a chemical engineer. So he was more than qualified to assume the position of the administrator of the Department of Energy. Great. 1965 comes around. You got people in the streets because there's been some abuse with Balaguer's government. There have been violations against the Constitution, and there was a segment of what used to be a part of the government that came out and said, hey, we want to make sure that the Constitution is being held up. They were called constitutionalists. Well, a civil war broke out. And that's when my mom took off with her 8-month pregnant self. And she went next door to the island next door, the island of garbage, where I was born. I was born on a garbage island. Yeah. And when I was brought back, 3 years after I was brought back to Dominican Republic in 66. But by 68, we had to beat it out of there quick, fast, and in a hurry. How come? Well, remember, this guy, Balaguer, didn't pick my dad out of fear against the fear of the military, and put that some knucklehead who had no clue in that position. But that's not what did it for my father. That wasn't the straw that broke the camel's back. No. You see, that dude, that military guy, he knew the relationship that this dude had with my father, how they were tight, how my father was qualified. So what did this dude start doing? He started lying to Balaguer, putting out all kinds of gossip, all kinds of crazy stuff. And my dad was under the impression that Balaguer was believing all this nonsense. That was the straw. So my dad took a little ride over to the island next door, right? The garbage island. And he started setting up. He was plotting to overthrow his friend, Balaguer, his homeboy. Well, Balaguer got word of that. He said, nah, you crossed the line, man. You crossed the line, and the penalty is unalive. Now, how did my father prevent from getting unalive? Well, my mother had a bunch of cousins that were generals and colonels in the military, and we got that courtesy call. Your husband needs to go, and go now. This dude is sending people to go take him out. So he grabbed my mom and 4 of us and bounced. Went to New York. We arrived in New York in 1968. First stop was Washington Heights, 168th in Amsterdam, not far from where Malcolm was assassinated. So we arrived in New York City in 1968. There was six of us in a 1-bedroom apartment in Washington Heights. From there, we moved to the Bronx. By the time we moved to the Bronx, there was only 5 of us, because the oldest that came with us was kicked out. She was kicked out because she went to a party, and the hostess told her to stay because it's too dangerous to go walking home at night. And my dad, being the disciplinary that he is, he wasn't trying to hear none of that. He had my mother pack up all her stuff, laid it outside the door, and that was the end of that. She was never to return. Never to return. So, my family knows what it's like to live under the conditions that people here might be potentially about to live under. Maybe. Like I told Miss Queen in the earlier live, I really hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. No, we that very sister, she had to go live with some people that she didn't even know. The lady's son fell in love with her. They got to doing the horizontal mambo because she had nowhere to go. So she felt like she had to do what she had to do. Got pregnant. My mom, of course, reached out to her. But my dad is an unforgiving person. Later on, he started to, because after she had the oldest of my nephews and nieces, the grandfather thing kicked in. Yeah, thank you, Nikki. The grandfather thing kicked in. Yeah, he loved his grandson. That that very sister, my father sent her off to get something. I think it was the store or something like that. When she came back, she stopped in front of the house to talk to her little friends. My dad standing right there at the doorway waiting. My dad was not the one. If he sent you to go do something, you come back immediately. Do not pass go. She stopped in front of the house, had a little conversation with her friends. As she approached the doorway, my father cold cocked her, knocked her tooth out, lifted her up off the floor. Nikki heard this story. There's no child, whatever. There was none of that. We ain't have none of that. None of that exists back home. If your parents wanted to take you out of this world, you heard people say that to their kids. I brought you into this world, I'll take you out. Well, that was really happening back there. No, he's gone. My dad died in no, there was no government agency. There's no government. What? Government agency? Girl, please. Help with abuse? Nikki, if you didn't put your kids in check, the government will take you and torture you. They wasn't trying to hear nothing. There was no agency. Yeah. There was no agency. There was no government assistance. There was no government help. There was no EBT cards or coupons. Yeah. Queen, listen. And yeah, Nunu, check this out, right? He beat us severely. He put my brother in intensive care. My brother was 1 foot in his grave. Matter of fact, this was just after I was born. My mother had to leave me in Puerto Rico to take a flight to Dominican Republic to go care for him in the hospital. All because he played one day of hooky. That's all it took. Damn near killed him. Put him in a burlap sack and beat him down with the hardest stick he could find. Yeah. That's how it was back then. Yeah, if you was one of these undisciplined kids, your life expectancy was short. Very short. Nikki already heard the story, but the men in my father's side of the family, no, believe it or not, Queen, this is odd, right? As adults, we weren't scared of them. Those beatdowns. However, psychological abuse, that is the worst. That doesn't heal. If it does heal, it takes too long to heal. Ass whooping? But then again, out there, getting an ass whooping, how can I say it? That was common. That was common. As a child, you just needed to know. You get it twisted, it could be the last time you ever get twisted. Nikki heard this story before. My uncle, my father's brother, he was living with my grandmother, his mother. And it was a shack. It was like was like a trailer or something. If I had to compare it, like a single trailer, stuff like that. That's about the size of it. My cousin, his niece, my grandmother's granddaughter, she used to like to get her groove on inside the house with her mans. I can understand that. Hey, my thing ain't moving. All right, I'll highlight what you said in a second once this thing starts with my cursor. Okay, here we go. I understand that children needs to be disciplined for bad behavior because check said, yeah, the police will. And down there, it ain't just the police that'll kill them down there. Your neighbor could kill them too. They just didn't tolerate unruly children at all. Zero tolerance. So back to my uncle. My uncle told his niece, my cousin, if you're gonna be doing your thing in here, don't let my mother be here while you're doing that stuff, because she didn't care. She was doing the horizontal mambo with the sound effects and all that while my grandmother was there in the house. And my uncle wasn't having it. He said, listen, you do that again, I'm taking you out. So while she's doing it, while my grandmother's there, they start hearing some banging on the door. Yes, ma'am. Yes. The horizontal mambo. Yeah, they were clapping in there. So they started hearing some banging. That is bold. And my uncle wasn't having it. So they hear banging. They knew what time it was. That banging that they heard, that was my uncle with the first machete he was using to break that door down. So they stopped their stuff, got dressed, and found an escape. Got up out of there, but my uncle didn't stop. That machete broke, he grabbed another one with a flat end. They call it a colín. It's got a big flat end. And he commenced to chop away at that door till it broke open. He didn't ask no questions. He just started swinging. The first thing he hit was the only light bulb in there. It shattered. And he kept hacking away. He kept hacking away. He didn't care. 67 blows. 67 blows to his own mother. She wound up passing a week later. Do you think any of my father's siblings cried about that? Not a tear. They didn't shed not one tear. Not one tear. Not one of her sons and daughters shed a tear for that woman. I'm talking about cold-hearted. These people are cold-hearted. A cousin of mine went from one town to where my family's town is, told another cousin of mine, hey, some dude is giving me a headache. My cousin from hometown said, oh, really? Gave him this big-ass knife. Handle it. I don't know how long it took, but when my other cousin got back to his house, the dude that was giving him a headache, 6 feet under. And it's non-stop events like that with the men on my father's side of the family. They could fill. You could fill a cemetery with all the people they took out. It was just like that back then. Yeah, I mean, that was life down there. Yeah, all my uncles and aunts are gone. All of them. There's a good number of them too. And they weren't the shortest one of the bunch was my dad. He was like 5'9". Everybody else was 6'3", 6'7", 6'5". They had the towns that they lived in terrorized. And that one cousin that lives in my family's hometown, he was my grandmother's favorite. This dude, okay, was helping one of our uncles out, who's a mechanic, and his jack broke. So this cousin of mine held a Jeep up from the engine side while he replaced the tire, while my uncle replaced the tire. That's how strong he was. No, they're all gone, Nikki. All of them. My dad, all his sisters, his brothers. He had sisters that would slap fire out of the local men. They dominated their husbands. Dominated them. My grandmother was a loan shark. My grandmother was mean as hell. Matter of fact, my dad made us all promise that when he goes, under no circumstance was he to be buried next to his own mother. He's buried next to his grandmother from his mother's side of the family. He didn't get to meet his own father until he was 19. Griselda Blanco. I think Griselda would have been scared of her. She used to have my sisters when they were staying over with them. She used to have my sisters and some of my other cousins. She used to force them to go get stuff for her barefoot midday in that hot ass sun. And they had to go barefoot. It's like 1,000,000 degrees out there. She used to force them to do that. These people were. This is what Spain brought to the island, okay? So that you understand. That part of my family, they're all Caucasian, and they're all from barefoot. Yeah, barefoot. Imagine 12 o'clock in the afternoon, you walking on tar. It ain't dirt. It's tar. Barefoot. You know how hot that is? And she used to make them do that deliberately. As I don't know if it was some form of punishment or she was just a sadist. I don't know. I never had to deal with that woman. But my siblings, whoo, they got nothing good to say about that woman. And she and her father is one of a few families that were sent from Spain to Dominican Republic to maintain a white population because everybody was mixing. Everybody out there was all hot cocoa. And the Spanish government said, whoa. So they sent a group of white families, and my grandmother was from one of those families. But these people were nasty, man. Nasty. Nasty. A lot of them are business owners. A lot of them own supermarkets. A lot of them own a bunch of stuff. They were all merchants. They weren't. My dad, on the other hand, even though he grew up with his grandfather, he didn't take to business. He understands business, but he didn't take to business. He became a chemical engineer instead. My mother was born right across the street from my father, where he lived. Right across the street. He can hear her crying when she was born. He went, he got his degree, came back, snatched my mother up. There was a doctor that was scoping out my mom's, trying to, but my dad was like, nah, that's mine. And my dad had a reputation. Yeah, some people have approached me about that. I'm going to have to, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know if I'm going to record it somewhere, like audio, or like audio record everything that I can remember that went on. I got to tap into some of my family members, because there are things that they've told me about myself when I was little that I don't care to admit, but yeah. Like, for example, my sister was telling me that by the age of 2, I already had the vocabulary of like a 10-year-old or something like that. Something crazy. Oh, okay. I'm going to do some more of that then. Oh, man, my cursor. Okay, here we go. Yeah, I'm going to do some more of that. Yeah, but living back home was no joke. And I hear these people talking, and they act like, oh, this is not a big deal. Not a big deal, but you guys have no clue. Look, the police, total immunity. The president, the Supreme Court gave him almost absolute immunity. Almost. Do you know what that means? That while he's sitting there as president, in his capacity, he can get away with a whole hell of a lot. And you cannot investigate him. Oh, but we got 3 branches of government, and there's checks and balances. There used to be checks and balances. Ain't gonna be no more checks and balances. It's gonna be only the executive branch that runs the show. And there's only gonna be one party. Yeah, that's how it was back home. See, the United States was a beacon for the world. This was the democracy that everybody looked up to. Operative word is was. So nations like the USSR, like China, this country was like a counterbalance against that. There ain't no more counterbalance. And all these people with their Second Amendments, well, if the government gets crazy, yeah, well, I'm strapped up. Man, you ain't gonna do nothing with your little pea shooter. What you think you're gonna do with your AK? The president is the commander in chief of the most powerful military in the world. Oh, but they can't just what? What are you talking about? You think you really believe it's that hard to fabricate a crisis to justify martial law? You really think that's hard? You think that's difficult? Like I said, I hope I'm wrong. I really do. Ain't looking good. I hope I'm wrong. Yeah, but the judicial ain't gonna let judicial what? Judicial what? Supreme Court what? Somebody from the executive branch of government could just pay one of those Supreme Court judges this. Pay them a visit. Say, oh, you want to take on this case over what the president is doing? Really? You want to do that? Oh, I don't know. And that's when they bust out all the details of their family and everything like that. The veiled threats. All of a sudden, some property gets destroyed, missing. Maybe one of their wives are out shopping, and all of a sudden, the wife is not allowed to leave anywhere. We're just letting you know that we hope the case goes very well that you have pending against our president. You can go now. She gets home, tells her husband, hey, these people are not playing. What can they do to us? What the hell is that? A tank in front of our property? Oh. Sorry, we were just passing by. Just passing by. Just passing by? Where the hell's the nearest military base? If you strayed real far, buddy. Oh. Sorry. Oh, the barrel was pointing in front of your house. Hey. Oh, just a coincidence, a mistake. We'll leave you guys alone. See ya. Bye. Yeah, they'll get the message. They'll get the message. See, you can send troops wherever the hell you want. Now, if it's a domestic issue, like I said, a crisis can easily be created. Just before they decide to deport certain groups from certain religions, they might just keep them here for the sole purpose of creating that crisis. We have a situation here. The president makes an announcement. Folks, the United States is under attack. We got intelligence telling us that this group is about to set it off. We got to do something about this, folks. This is real dangerous. Tens of millions are going to die. Everybody got to get home by 8 p.m. no later. Otherwise, you will be considered a threat. What's this? A curfew? Yeah. Curfew. Go home. Don't be out after 8. And you know our homeboys, our thug buddies. Yeah. You know who they are. They're going to say, F that. You ain't telling me what to do. And you go out to the supermarket the next day. Did you hear what happened? Did you hear what happened? Okay, Nunu. I'll be there. I'll be at your live tomorrow. Thank you for coming on. Oh yeah. What happened? I didn't hear anything. Oh, it wasn't on the news? Oh no, they don't put stuff on the news like that no more. Oh really? Well, Gino and Mark and Jason, this one, that one. Yeah, they're not with us anymore. Oh, they moved? No, they're unalive. They was out after 8. Really? Yeah. Oh, wow. What are their families doing? Are they reporting this to the police? Are you crazy? Reporting it to who? Hell no, they ain't reporting it to the police. They might be the ones that did that. Oh, so I was telling you about my boy. Let me go back to my boy right here and his administration. His at mid. Let's go to his administration because that was the one point I forgot to bring out. His administration. Check this out, right? Police back then didn't have to have an education. In fact, most of them didn't have an education. So it was a big deal to be called communist. If somebody accused you of being a communist, they were going to unalive you right on the spot. You weren't going to court. You might be taken to the 9 or the 40 and get tortured and then unalived. But all it takes is an accusation. All it takes is for somebody to accuse you of being a communist, and that was it. It was a wrap. You were done for. So these cops went onto a college campus, and they saw a student with a book in his hand. They detained him and interrogated him right there on the spot on the campus. Oh, what are you doing with that book? Oh, I'm a student here. Oh, so you're a communist. Bang, bang. Put him into sleep, the eternal sleep. When somebody else who can read grabbed the book was about his president. So the guy was studying the very president that was in charge. But because the cop was illiterate, he just assumed that was a book about communism, so he got to go. So much fun, guys. So much fun. There's a lot of fun associated with what could happen. Like I said, I just hope I'm wrong. I just hope I'm wrong. The history homework, the world history homework, should have been done before the elections. But now, it's late. It's late. So, it really doesn't matter now. People here are going to create their own history. And I hope I'm wrong. I really do. I'll leave you guys with that. Thank you all for showing up. I had a lot of fun. So, stay fresh and keep it profitable out there. I might do another live tomorrow and Saturday. I don't know. Depends on how I feel. Stay fresh. Keep it profitable.